Hello there. Welcome to the photography workshop of Mastering Photography, which is an intermediate journey into the creative control. So, to begin with, hi, my name is Prateek Kalakannavar, a travel photographer and the founder of Travelographer and Co. So, over the past 8 years, I have honed my skills across all niches. This workshop is designed for beginners and intermediate photographers like you who are looking to step up their photography game. From the basics to an intermediate, this is where I'll be taking you through this course. So, what will you be learning in this course? So, before we get into anything, we need to understand your equipment. So, first we understand your equipment and then the camera techniques and the creative framing. Now, page 2, which is a quick review and understanding your gear. So, as we all know, in photography, we'll be using multiple kinds of lenses, cameras, lights, whatnot. A phone, which has a camera, it's good. Then comes a mirrorless system. This you see here is a tiny mirrorless system. This is the Sony Alpha A6000, which is a tiny but crop sensor mirrorless or DSLR. You can vaguely call it as a DSLR, but this is a mirrorless system. I'll explain that in details further. So this, and then you have a bigger, a professional Sony A7m3, which is a full frame camera. So full frame and crop sensors goes into the sensor size, which will be discussed later on again. Most of you will have seen this is a very basic lens. It's written here, you can see here that it is 16 to 50 mm. So this one is called and known as a kit lens. From there, the next lens is this. This is a 55 mm. This is a 55 to 210. This is known as zoom lens. You see, these are the lenses which are used to click pictures which are very far away. I mean, you can zoom in literally very tight. You get great frames and great bokeh as well. And then there are some creative lenses like, okay, give me a second, I'll show you this thing. And this is a masterpiece. So this is a very old manual lens. There is no automatic focusing and all. You got to focus it by yourself. If you can see, you'll understand that. And this is known as a fisheye lens. You see this? So this is a very creative lens. It's known as fisheye. You'll have seen pictures from these in underwater pictures, in concerts where we'll be having a full 180 degrees round view. This lens, which is known as a 55 mm. So this is something which is mostly used in portrait photography. This is a very high essential, which comes with a lot of importance. So this is used for portraits, product photos, a place where you need to showcase your details in a very high quality. A kit lens is something wherein your phone will also be sufficient. You need not get a kit lens. So this will discuss based on the need of your photography. And then comes the zoom lens, which is where I'll suggest that any beginner should get adapted either to a zoom lens or a prime lens. A little in depth about mastering the settings which are used for photography like ISO, shutter speed and aperture. These three settings are what takes you from an auto camera usage to a manual mode. The most essential skill that any photographer must have. Once you learn the techniques, these basic techniques, that is when you later on will go into doing it more creatively. Okay, so it's time to take full control of your camera. ISO is something which controls your camera's sensitivity to light. If we use high ISOs, depending on the camera, there'll be a lot of noise generated. Noise as in grains. You'll have seen a lot of pictures which will be very grainy, distorted, noisy pictures. So it's something which is a digital thing. In short, I can say that we use ISO to control the brightness into the camera sensitivity. Next point, which is shutter speed. Okay, we use shutter speed in different speeds at different times. So we use a fast shutter speed to capture something which is moving at a very high speed, like be it a bike, a person, or an action. Let's call it an action. If any action is happening, we need to capture it at a single instant. so we do not have a lot of time for it, so we capture it in a fast shutter speed. For example, if you can see, so I'm not sure if you're able to see, this is the shutter speed, this is the aperture, and this is the ISO. Next, aperture. So regarding aperture, aperture is something which controls the depth of field. So again, aperture also has numbers ranging from 1.4, 1.8 to f22, 26 and more. So the way this works is, when we use an aperture of, suppose, let's say 1.8, so at that point you'll be getting a picture something. Let me put in a memory card. So this picture is at 1.8, f1.8, the aperture, which has blurred the entire background. So as we said, so now I'll show you what happens when we change in the aperture. Now we'll be adding the aperture, we'll be sending the aperture around f9. So for that we are increasing the ISO until 8000. See, so this is how you change the ISO. So we further went down and clicked it at aperture f20. That is when you can see that there is no blurring happening anywhere. What did we discuss here? What ISO, shutter speed and aperture. And then we move to next. So in this fourth slide, we'll be discussing your composition techniques, because as we all know, a good composition elevates your shots. That is what provides value to a photographer and his pictures. So there are a few rules which you need to follow while capturing a picture. These are known as the rules of photography. Yeah, you might be asking me that the rules are meant to be broken, right? I completely agree with you guys. That's what gets you into the creative field as well. Art of balancing between following the rules and modifying them is what is known as the creativity. So rule of thirds. So basically the way rule of third works is, you got lines like this and they go, so you get in that. How do I say this? So this is known as rule of third, wherein you place your subject at the points where the lines meet. That is where subconsciously a human mind is drawn. So keeping your subject focused on those points is a good way of framing. So you can find some examples here. And then next is leading lines, where, for example, you're able to see these lines, these lines. So when you're placing a subject over here or over here, that is when your eye captures them very beautifully. So this is known as the leading lines. And then coming to symmetry and patterns, so you add these into the pictures, and these add visual appeal and make your photo stand out. So see, right now I'm in the center of the frame. The way the rule of third works is 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get 9 blocks in total. So over here, this center, which you're looking at me, this is the center frame. I usually put them into different sides, especially on this end or on this end, but since I'm teaching you guys, it is always better when I'm in the center, because your eyes will be caught here. Moving on. So next comes another important topic, which is the lighting fundamentals. Light is the foundation of every great photo. There are way many ways of using your light, and understanding light is what makes your photos better, creative. So regarding the natural light, let's say there are two kinds of lights, okay? Natural lights. One is the golden hour, which just before sunset, that is during the sunset or during the sunrise, the orange, the golden light which will be shining upon the world. These are known as the golden hours. If you go deeply, there's again golden hour and blue hour, but that is for further discussion. And so this is a very sweet spot wherein you can capture amazing photos, and the light will be super smooth, especially for portraits or landscapes. This is the best time. Then comes the daytime, wherein the sunlight is directly hitting on your face. Like, if you can see the contrast, the light is falling here, the shadow falling on me, or see this light and shadow. This is what the harsh sunlight is. So at this point, this is where you can use the shadows for your creative outputs. If not, you can choose a spot where you are in shade and you can plan up your photography accordingly. And then comes artificial lights. So we have flash, strobe lights, and many different ways of lights which will be. So next comes the artificial light, which are like flash and modifiers and strobe lights. We have a range of lights available. So these are something which are completely artificial, of course, and yet in full control. So we know how to use them, when to use them, how much of light to put on, soft light, hard light, colors. So this is where the play comes in. The artificial lights are heavily used, especially in portrait photography and in product photography. Moving on. So motion photography, as we all know, requires precise timing and technical adjustments. So this is where the shutter speed comes into play in full picture. If this is something happening, it's a waterfall, you need to capture a single drop of it in full clarity, or as a bike moving, it's very going very fast. You have put in your frame, you're ready to click the frame as soon as the bike enters. So you need to be ready to capture the frame in a hundredth of a second. To be honest, in thousandth or 4,000th of a second. Imagine what is a 4,000th of a second. Yes, that is where these cameras create masterpieces. To freeze a motion, something's happening, you need to capture fast, you need to use a fast shutter speed. And something else like this, a water, if the water is falling, if you capture it in a high speed, you'll be able to see a detailed single droplet as well. But if you want to give the waterfall a smooth flow, a flowy effect, which might even be looked as a blurred effect, or you can see you'll have seen and heard of these light trails. You'll have seen stars moving across. So this is where the shutter is kept open for more than a second to hours together. So that is where this magic happens. So moving on, the most common and most well-known photography, which is the portrait photography. So portrait photography is all about capturing emotions, because that is what we are trying to portray through a portrait. Be it their eyes, nose, face, lips, the body language, everything matters here. So it's just not a subject, the way a subject is appearing as well. So the way the subject is appearing depends on your lighting as well. So in these spots is where the soft light is very useful. And there are some places I've seen some black and white dramatic pictures where the half is like full bright and full dark. See, there's full light falling here, full shadow falling here. So this is something when you capture from here, it would have been like that contrasty picture. Usage of light is what plays a very vital role here. And other the subject should be able to express themselves without any awkwardness or any difficulty. So for that, the photographer has to break the ice. We need to build rapport with the subject for their natural expressions. So once you do that, it's a play between the photographer and the subject, and what the output you guys are planning together. Moving on, travel photography. This is my favorite part. So travel photography is where anything can happen and everything can happen. So as a photographer, you gotta be ready with everything you got. Be it cameras, lenses, or whether raincoats and everything. As a human, as a photographer, it's you who gotta be careful as well. So there's one thing that we have not discussed yet. That is editing. So the best platform or the best software which can be used for editing your pictures in a laptop or a computer is Lightroom, because you get full control of your picture over there. And other than that, where you can play around with your picture is a Photoshop. So we'll not be diving into Photoshop right now. We'll be discussing only about Lightroom. So editing is where the magic happens for any picture, because see this, before, after. Do you understand the difference over there? A picture which might not even be able to reflect any colors, when edited, can put out its entire vibrant nature of its colors. So in a camera, you'll be having two options: to shoot a normal JPEG, which happens in every phone, everybody knows, you unknowingly or knowingly everybody shoots JPEG. But once you're turning into a professional photographer, you need to know and be very sure to capture the images in RAW. Or when you're editing into the highlights, only the highlights will get affected. We'll discuss these things further in the classroom. So you're going to edit the pictures, you need to sort them out, you need to build a workflow where you're showing your pictures, and then a basic adjustment. where you fine tune the lights. So now that we are done with the basic adjustment and your photos looking good enough, now you want it to look amazing. You want to play God with your picture. So we take it of levels further higher into the game. Clarity and dehaze. Here is where you'll be able to make a picture either have too much of clarity, that is like too contrasty and every part is heavily detailed. If not, like for example for a few portraits which will be very soft, blurry, foggy, this is where dehaze comes into the picture. Clarity and dehaze, these things. Then comes another play, which is gradient or the filters, radial filter. So this is where, which suppose this is a picture, if you use a radial filter, let me say I put in a radial filter like this, I put a circle one. So apart from this, I can blur everything out, or darken this part, or brighten this part, darken this part, and then using a normal gradient filter, radial filter. So you put it in this way, it puts in the lights. Okay, see, that's what we need a lot of time to discuss these things. So here, gradient and radial filters. So these tools, we use these tools to apply selective adjustment to specific parts of the area. As I said, you choose a circle filter, you'll be able to apply the filter here and rest not. And if you use different kinds of filters, you can shade in the pictures from here and leave it out here. And monochrome, so it is black and white, sepia, grayscale, and more. So you get to edit them in all these features. Going ahead, professional landscape photographer. You are someone who knows the location very well. You do your homework before you arrive there. You understand the weather conditions. You scout the location. You understand at what time, how the light is going to be there. You plan your shot. You frame your shot. You wait. You need to have enough patience. You wait for your shot. You wait for the nature, for the landscape to appear as you have visualized in your head, and then capture it. Now we are done with understanding photography, the manual mode, understanding the kinds of pictures, the kinds of photography, the niches, which will be discussed further in the class. And then once we capture the pictures, how we edit them through Lightroom. So this is your entire understanding and development of photography, the basics of it. So once you do that, what next? As we know, photography is about pushing your limits of creativity. So whatever you have learned, I'll be providing you assessments, exercises based on the things you want to develop, and we want to get it out of you. What next? So here is where you build in your portfolio. So portfolio is something which tells your story in your amazing, unique way. So portfolio is where you showcase your best of your pictures across all the niches. You put them together in one place, trying to make a story out of it, and then showcase it to the public. This is where the file management and the workflow comes into the picture. You always got to have multiple backups of every work that you do, be it online or offline. Get some hard disk, store it into them. Like me, see, I'll show you. You need to generate your own workflow, and always make sure you have a backup of all your output and input. Let me ask you one question. Why do you want to learn photography? What do you want to do with photography? Or what do you want to express through photography? Okay, so think about it. Let me know when you guys are here with me. This entire journey, you will have to develop your own unique skill, unique style, because what you click is what you see here. So the more you're able to utilize this as a camera, the eye and brain, the combination of this is your style. So happy shooting, guys. Before we end, so this is my unique style, which I observe everything that I can see in the frame and then understand what is happening. Is there any story coming into my mind? What is that particular frame which I'm seeing right now trying to tell to me? Once the story is told to me, once I understand the story, I try to capture it through my camera, through my tool, with my skills, and then express it for the world to see. That is me, Prateek Kalakannavar, signing off. Thank you, guys. Happy shooting.